Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. My name is Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by remote location with Sean Keenan.
Hey, Heidi. Tell I'm doing the show from my car.
Because we can't stop it. And, of course, he's back in the saddle again, Mr. Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I like to envision a scenario where Sean doesn't have a house anymore, but he still has a podcast.
Hey, man, if things weren't certain ways, that would be the case for me. So,
be ill, Leslie.
And I had a great dad joke all lined up. I had to change it up at the last minute.
Well, we are back again. Glad to have Bruce back and everything. We tried to get away from him as much as we can, but we realized we can't do the show without him because the man lifts too much. It'll make us all look bad if we go, because we struggled last week. We were just like, I think we held our own pretty well, but it was.
You guys did good. I listened to it. You guys did just fine.
You were certainly missed, sir. So welcome back to the program.
That was a pretty short comic book connection.
Hey, I could have written one, and like, it's a comic book that came out in stores and people bought it. Well, bye. That pretty much would have been my review. So, hey.
Yeah, I just hated that you missed the obvious Daughters of the Dragon joke.
All right, lay it on us.
They're daughters of the dragon, but they're not sisters. Well, one of them's a sister, but not that kind of sister. You get what I'm going for.
Oh, you see, I'm telling you, we can't fire them no matter how much we want to. No, I'm kidding. No one wants to fire anyone. But I tell you what we do like, everybody, is when, listeners of this program take a little time out of their day, join on down to the iTunes there and give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger?
It's a car humdinger. I love it. It just sounds like he's calling in from the 40s. It's so great. This one is from a username which I absolutely love, Pyromaniac Midget. And
I love it.
And it is entitled, Get It While It's Hot. Sounds saucy. Let's read. These guys are great. Each brings a different point of view to their reviews. Thankfully, they've sacrificed themselves to save us from having to watch some of the dregs of the superhero genre. I guess that makes them something akin to superheroes. Thank you, Pyromaniac Midget, for that 5-star review on iTunes. If you would like to, help out this show, help it reach other people and stuff, our numbers are growing each and every week, and we appreciate that. And you don't know how you do that? By going out, sharing the show with other people, 5 stars on iTunes and all that good stuff. That's a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we really appreciate that. We also appreciate the people that go down to patreon.com/HMP and help us out there. Right now, we have 22 patrons helping this here program out. And now is the time to get on, everybody. And I'll tell you why. Because May's coming up. May is coming up. May is going to be a huge month for us, not only because, well, really we have 5 weeks worth of shows. And we got a lot of good stuff that we're planning. Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy being amongst those. Big stuff. But of course, we have our regular monthly, everybody votes for a program that we're watching. Right now, as it stands, for next week's show, The Punisher, that's the Thomas Jane one, Zorro the Gay Blade, and Conan the Barbarian are in a 3-way tie for first place. So if you have yet to make your vote, and you're part of the Patreon team, patreon.com/HMP, go down there and give that a vote, man. And if you'd like to vote, it's easy, man. All you got to do is even just $1, but if you get more than that, guess what? There are other things that you can get. And like I said, May is going to be the month for everybody to get in on Patreon, because we are not going to just give away, a T-shirt like we normally do. We're going to do that, but we're going to do some other stuff. We got a giveaway every single week in the month of May. It is Listener Appreciation Month because we're coming up on 3 years, and it's thanks to you guys that we can continue to do this show. So patreon.com/HMP, get some rewards and everything, and we really appreciate it, everybody. So let's get down to it. This week we are reviewing, way back when, I think episode 148-ish, maybe? That sounds about right. We reviewed the first 2 episodes of Legion, and we decided, hey, this is pretty darn good. We are going to go back and do the full first season when it comes out. Let's go ahead and listen to a short little trailer here to get you caught up if you haven't watched any of Legion.
David, your whole life people have told you you were sick. I'll show you that it was really just a lie. The human race beginning to evolve. The divisions were created by our government to track and study people like you. And the ones they can't control, they kill.
They're looking for us.
I could help you rewrite the story of your life.
Shall we begin?
No, I can't.
You're the key.
The key to what? Winning the war?
Is this real?
All good in the head now?
You have an extremely large amygdala.
Thank you.
All right, that was a trailer for Legion. Here's the IMDb logline. David Heller is a troubled young man diagnosed as a schizophrenic, but after a strange encounter, he discovers special powers that will change his life forever. Now, while we've had a comic book connection on the first time that we reviewed this, the first 2 episodes of this season, my guess is our friend Bruce Leslie has a little bit more for this second half, if you will.
Well, The Shadow King, Amal Farouk, created by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, the same team that created Kitty Pryde, a.k.a. Shadowcat, so I think they are fans of shadows. Now, the Shadow King is an entity of pure psychic energy which feeds on a hatred of humanity, manifesting itself by possessing the bodies of humans. Now, originally, he was simply a telepathic mutant named Amal Farouk. But with time, Shadow King developed into an entity of the astral plane, which has existed since the dawn of humanity, an ethereal demon preferring to enslave the bodies of telepaths and psychics and use their capabilities to enslave others. As a side effect of its greed, hedonism, and lack of self-control, the Shadow King's long-term telepathic hosts are often morbidly obese. Now, guys, how's this for an origin story? I'm going to tell you how the Shadow King came to be. It is a manifestation of the dark side of the human consciousness that was spawned by the first nightmare. So how's that for an origin story? You can't beat that for creepiness. Now, it kind of sounds Stephen King-ish, to be honest. Now, for many years, the Shadow King's primary human manifestation was Amal Farouk. He psychically controlled those around him. He would feed on the shadows in their souls, and those shadows would merge with the Shadow King. And I got to say, the shadows in my soul would be like a Golden Corral buffet. Eat till you puke kind of shadows over here. Now, in true Claremont X-Men backstory fashion, Amal Farouk worked for Hitler in the 1930s in a scheme to dethrone King Edward of England. He does some kind of ceremony that brings Rachel Summers and Kitty Pryde back in time. The Shadow King possessed Rachel Summers' body and kidnapped Queen Elizabeth, who was known simply as Princess Elizabeth at the time. But Shadowcat foiled Shadow King's plans because a shadow's only weakness is another shadow, I suppose. Now, it is worth mentioning that good old QE2, Queen Elizabeth, also got involved in the butt kicking. So take a moment and visualize Queen Elizabeth using royal judo against an evil mutant. God save the Queen. Now, maybe that's what this show was missing for me, a combat-savvy Queen Elizabeth. But anyway, Farouk became a crime lord in Egypt in the 1970s and was the master of the Thieves Guild and therefore the boss of Aurora Monroe, also known as Storm for people who aren't in the know. Now, when Professor X went to Cairo to recruit Storm, he was attacked by Farouk. Farouk was Xavier's first encounter with an evil mutant, which actually led to the formation of the X-Men. Now, Professor X and Farouk assumed astral form, and Xavier defeated Farouk on the astral plane with a fatal psionic attack. Later, Shadow King went on a rampage and terrorized the New Mutants until Ilyana Rasputin gave him the old what for. And Sean, do your best to never get on a Russian lady's bad side. I can tell you from experience that it doesn't end well. Now, once upon a time, Storm disappeared and was turned into a child. Legion used Cerebro to locate the missing Storm when Farouk attacked and possessed him. Now, here's where it gets good. Part of Carol Danvers escaped from Rogue and traveled to Mir Island, where she was forced to fight Legion, who was possessed by Amal Farouk, who was possessed by Shadow King. Now, although she managed to defeat him, she was possessed by Farouk, and then later on she was defeated by Magneto, proving once again that Magneto was right. Now, he did try to turn Jean Grey into the Shadow Queen, but that didn't work out. And when Shadow King was removed from Legion, he became unstable, or actually became more unstable, which is kind of like saying the desert grew drier. Now, eventually, Professor X and Jean Grey teamed up and put Shadow King in a coma. Eventually, Captain Britain locked him in a tomb in the Gobi Desert, where Fox executives found him and let him loose to possess Aubrey Plaza. That last part may not be canon, but it makes sense to me.
You know, again, thanks for coming back. Now, we did review the first 2 episodes on HMP, so if you'd like to hear what we think about that, but I think this is pretty much going to encompass the entire season and everything, which is not too awful long. It's only 8 episodes, and something I guess that we, Sean and I talked about a little bit with Iron Fist and everything. Isn't it nicer when you can get like 8 powerhouse episodes instead of having to like drag it out to 13, 16, and it kind of getting a little bit watered down?
Especially on it's not exactly basic cable, I guess, FX. It's sort of the tier above basic cable, but it's still not like pay TV or premium cable or something. So it's really nice when a lower tier cable company doesn't want more episodes, when they're happy with 8.
And I'll say this, I think that really also went into their budget for this thing, because this is something that you'll probably hear me say a couple of times on this episode. This thing looks fantastic. I was talking to my brother the other day, and he's like, "Oh, so what are you guys reviewing?" I go, "Well, we're talking about Legion." He just goes, "Well, what's the show kind of like?" And I was telling him, and I'm like, "And it looks really good." He's like, "Well, how's it compared to like other shows?" I'm like, "I think this is probably, as far as like from a production standpoint, one of, if not the best looking superhero television shows that we've got out there."
It makes me wonder what Fox is going to do with the X-Men show that I guess is coming up in the fall, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be kind of, because Fox and FX, obviously, but hopefully that'll kind of carry over and stuff like that. But it also gives me a lot of really big hope for what they're going to be doing, and hopefully Why the Last Man will get the same kind of nice treatment,
I think that's real encouraging on the budgetary concerns, and Why the Last Man would be another good one to start off with 8 episodes, I think. But, with the other X-Men show being on Fox, they also do Gotham, which does look good, even if you think the stories are a little so I don't know what to call them, a little ludicrous. I enjoy it, but I know they're not exactly good, but it looks good.
Yeah, they're that kind of like, it's funny because I guess the CW more often than not gets the kind of the jab of like, oh, you're the more kind of soap opera type thing, but man, Gotham's got that in spades, man. They don't shy away from that.
It's definitely
I think of these shows as like comic books from the 90s where everything looks good, but there's not much inside.
It's true. But now, so I think Sean and I were pretty high on the first 2 episodes and everything. Bruce, you were probably the least of the 3 of us. What were your let's just kind of give some overall stuff, and then we'll kind of get into some of the, I was going to say twigs and berries, but that doesn't sound right.
It's better. It's better when you can watch it in a big chunk, I think. Mm-hmm. I think this is not one I would have liked as much following week to week. It's also better when I know that the end is in sight. I didn't finish it up till all 8 were already done and available. Watching this show without commercials is a big benefit to this show, because I got to be honest, those first 2 episodes that I watched with commercials on the FX app, didn't know where the show was going. It really hurts this show. This show would have benefited more by being on a commercial-free cable channel like Showtime, Stars, HBO, Netflix, Hulu even. No, but they put commercials in Hulu. So
you pay a little extra.
This is one that I think benefits from binge watching and no commercial interruptions. It warmed up. I like it a lot better now than I did those first 2 episodes, but I changed how I consumed it, which I have to ask myself, but I didn't consume it the way it was really intended to be consumed. So I don't know what that says about the show.
I will tell you that you saying that makes complete sense now, because I think that it was built for secondary viewing. Like Breaking Bad did not become a super popular show until it started airing on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it would make complete sense if Noah Hawley actually was like, you know what, let's make this show like this, so that the secondary market will be our big boon. It won't happen with the first airing of the show. Makes sense.
And they put a lot of work into the ambiance, the feel, the look, the music. They really set up a mood. And then when they break to tell me about how Airwick fresheners can cover up the stinky fish smell in my kitchen, that just ruins the mood, and you got to start back with square one after the commercial break.
But you're right. I think that's one of the big things in this, and that's how I ended up doing after those first 2 episodes, is I did binge through everything. And you're right. And especially a show like this that is really, really all over the map, and what I think is a good way. I think a week-to-week thing, man, if you're waiting a week and then coming back, there's a couple episodes that you'll go into the next week going, oh, what am I watching here? Is this the same? Did I miss it? Did I miss an episode? What's going on?
And some of the episodes have the feeling, if I wasn't watching it on online, bought the episodes on iTunes, so I knew what I was watching. But if I just turn on the TV, some of these have the feel like I would have thought, oh, this is a rerun. For some reason, they're showing a rerun this week. You know what I'm talking about? Especially, I think it was episode 6 where they sort of replay episode 1 with the different casts saying the same thing.
Right.
You'll get
that could have easily thrown me off.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, this is now, after seeing all 8 episodes, this is my favorite superhero property on television.
Even better than Riverdale.
To me, I you guys know this at this point. What makes me angry is not when a show is bad, like really bad, because at least you can consume it and have fun with how bad it is. The things that make me the craziest are when things are done mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this show is that they swing for the fences with everything.
Now, when you say this is your favorite television property, do you consider the Netflix shows television?
I don't.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Right, and thank you, because I would have completely steamrolled over that. So thanks for doing that for me. How dare you? I'm from the internet. How dare you?
Sir Internet, why have you come here today?
There's so many things I take great joy in, so many elements I take great joy in this show. The acting is fantastic. The writing is fantastic. And you guys already know the set design on this show is unsurpassed. Like, not all of it works set design wise. I think that they take massive swings with some of their sets, but they are taking risks on this show that you don't see anywhere else.
They don't play it safe. Like my favorite comic book show is probably Preacher, and they play it pretty safe there.
That's right. On the set design, they do. Like, they don't take chances on the set design on that show.
Just wait, season 2 might prove us very different. Who's to say?
But they don't have to take massive swings of the bat, because that's a themed show.
Very real.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, how does anyone know what a typical mental hospital looks like? Like, that's what makes that show so interesting. That's what makes Legion so interesting and different, is that is unlike any mental hospital that's ever existed. But so is this show. The show is so strange and weird, and it's just so it has massive guts. I'm trying to clean that up.
And I love the way a big compliment I have for this show that goes along with the set design, but it goes deeper than the set design, because it's also involved with the writing, the direction, the costuming. But it's impossible to tell exactly what time period this is.
Yes.
Nobody uses a cell phone that I can tell, but the cars don't necessarily look old. Sometimes the wardrobe looks really old. Sometimes it doesn't. I really like the way that it has this nebulous, non-specific time period feel.
And I keep looking for televisions on this show too, and I don't believe there is any.
Yeah, there's a couple of monitors, but no real TVs per se. And even like like some of the monitors that they have up is like a really weird kind of like almost projection screen on like a vinyl sort of deal, which is really weird and kind of, I was like, you've never seen anything like that before.
And the only real form of media that we see on here, medium, I should say, is we see a reel-to-reel tape recorder and nothing else. No cassette tapes, no CDs, no iPods. Other than the reel-to-reel, I couldn't find anything.
No, I don't think so. I think they go to great lengths for that, and And like this, I think it's really cool. I think it puts us in another place. It puts us in another time. It makes it, and I'll say this, and I'll see what you guys think. I think of probably and I'm going to include Netflix in this, maybe a little bit less, but I think this is probably one of the most comic booky shows we've ever, reviewed.
I'd have to think on that
just from the design standpoint.
I think the Flash is probably the most comic book.
Well, I mean, like from a visual storytelling sense, I guess. Because to me, that's the most impressive thing in this is just how they go for broke. They don't care, what any of the quote unquote rules are. We're just going outside the box and thinking here. This is like, to me, this is like a Darren Aronofsky movie with like a touch of when David Lynch is good.
And if we're going to say comic booky, to me, it would feel most like when Grant Morrison was writing the X-Men, if we're going to compare.
Yeah,
the thing about saying something is comic booky is there's far more comic books out there than there are TV shows, so there's so many different styles that it starts to become hard because different people have different references,
Good point. I meant more of the kind of like, I guess you're right. Grant Morrison's a great comparison, I think.
Earlier Grant Morrison, before he went too crazy.
Well,
Yeah. If it was late Grant Morrison, it would have been the actor talking directly to the screen, telling us how he doesn't like the director's direction, but he has to do it, and then he decides he's going to kill the director, then come to our house and kill us.
That makes sense. Thanks, Grant.
But one thing that really did help it, getting back on track as far as the story, for me personally, when I really came around on this show a little bit and started to think of it more positively, was when we had a concrete villain. When it starts to come out that the Shadow King is actually an entity we're dealing with, and he's, we mentioned David Lynch earlier. I didn't want it to just be the midget who talks backwards and nothing really comes from it. Mm-hmm. I was really worried at first on those first 2 episodes that the yellow-eyed devil was just going to be some random art house face that gets thrown up there to scare us, but doesn't really turn out to be anything tangible. So I really liked it when it went into a direction, and they really nailed it for me when it actually was a comic book character.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like they actually have stakes here. It's one of the problems that we had with the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they're not fighting anyone. You know what I mean? So to have an actual big bad that, is, in my opinion, a really great X-Men villain, it was like, oh, man, this is really great.
And, for the comic book historian in me, Amal Farouk is a more significant X-Men villain than Apocalypse is. He would have been a better choice for the movie universe than Apocalypse. The only X-Men villain that surpasses him is Magneto, and he does so many turns from good to bad, it's hard to even really call him a villain, more of an anti-villain. But it's kind of a nice get for this TV show, because it seems like other than Legion, they didn't use any characters from the comic books, and then they got probably the number 2 villain in X-Men history from my point of view, at least historically speaking. So I think that was a good get for them, and it was a good way to sort of touch on Legion's dissociative identity disorder without making it dissociative identity disorder too. I like that.
Yeah, that was nice. And I don't want to skip way ahead. We can talk about it later, but if the villain for season 2 is who I think it is, then things are going from this is kind of a crazy TV show to this show is insane.
Is it too early to just discuss if we think there will be a season 2?
Oh, it's already been renewed.
Yeah.
Okay, but
yep.
And they've got the lead signed down. The guy that's now in like what might end up being one of the biggest movie Disney's ever made. That's not a Star Wars movie. The star of Beauty and the Beast.
Well, he might not be in season 3, but he's definitely.
Okay.
Listen, I think that we're not doing the Disney animated sequels to live action just yet, but never, don't say it couldn't happen.
Well, it just tends when you're the male lead of a movie that's made $1 billion. Sometimes people think TV's beneath them, even if they don't have other movie jobs lined up. You know what I mean? You know how it goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the Clooney effect. Yeah.
Oh, I call it the Ja Rule effect, because Fast and the Furious 7 is out. Ja Rule was in the first one, and he's like, I want more money to be in this second one. He was gone. Ludacris came in, and nobody cared. They were like, Ja who? No, thank you. Well, I've done all I can for this show. Bye, fellas.
The jaw rule effect. Well,
let's get to this.
Okay.
Let's get to this. So because I think that it's a mistake to go plot beat by plot beat, and I think we're all in agreement with that.
It's almost impossible to do with this show, too.
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that we should probably talk about are the characters themselves. Like, is there anything, because I will tell you, as far as I'm concerned, every character on that show is terrific. Is there anyone that stuck out for you specifically, Bruce?
On the terrific side?
No, on the bad side.
On the bad side, there's some characters that didn't have a lot to do. At first, I did not like Carrie with the K, the female Carrie, the Native American person who just wanted to fight all the time. But then they made her story interesting as the show went on. Because if you'd asked me this after 3 episodes, I would have said I don't really care much for that character. But by the end, she totally won me over. I can't really come up with one that I think is necessarily weak. I just have the ones that weren't the standouts for me just because others were so charismatic.
Right.
I was on
the
that
guy
same
that does
loop.
the memory work. He didn't really have a lot to do. I don't think he developed a whole lot in this show, but it's not because, it's not a bad thing. It's just you can only do so much in 8 episodes.
Right. And also when you're standing next to Gene Smart and Jermaine Clement, chances are you're not going to have a whole lot to do.
It's tough.
Man, if I were standing next to Gene Smart, I would just want to get autographs that are signed by the Sugar Baker Designing Company or whatever.
Now,
she is terrific, that lady. I love her.
Yeah.
Now, Jermaine Clement, that was one I was surprised because I didn't look at the cast or anything, and when he shows up, I was like, get out of Dodge.
And I was hoping you were going to ask me for who was the standout on the good side, because I got to say, man, Oliver and his bizarre, he's like Dr. Weird. He's in the astral plane. He's not Dr. Strange. He's Dr. Weird, and I really like Weird.
Man, he is the cherry on top of a very weird show.
I love his just random beat poetry, trying to put together a barbershop quartet in a universe where only 2 people exist. I love it.
Do you sing tenor?
And when he starts messing where like it's that, like, what is his power set exactly, where he's seeing the memories and he's plucking them like it's a string instrument? Is that what's happening?
I'm not sure what that was, but it's just like there's a symphony and then words are coming around. I don't know what's going on. But he's so serious while he's doing it too. That's the best part.
And the musical choice was great. Was it Bolero? What was the music choice on that?
I think so.
It was just perfect, man. That's my whole favorite scene. And they even go, I know we're way out of order here, but I got to talk about this scene because I loved it. The whole sequence. It's more than a scene, I guess. But then they go with like silent picture style dialogue cards that they throw up on the screen.
So good.
They even put a little sepia tone to some of it, and the way that Aubrey Plaza's just turning in. I said after the first one that I don't like people that perform for the back row. I like them to perform for the people across the street. And she's going full on with her Tim Burton-esque hairdo and makeup there. I'm really enjoying that whole sequence where Oliver's conducting music to try to stop the death of his new acquaintances.
And I gotta tell you, man, there's such a again, I know I keep harping on this with the show, but where else are you going to see that where everything turns into a silent movie? Like, where else are you going to see that? That is so, like, just the size of the onions on those people who create this show. And everybody's on board. Like, everyone's like, yep, okay. So we're going to make it a silent movie here? Yeah, that sounds
No
good
one
to
just
me.
raises their hands and goes, excuse me. What is this now? No, we can't be doing this. And an executive producer said, okay, yeah, we're going to let you do that instead of just going, are you mad?
At this point, he's probably thinking, nobody's going to watch it anyway. Just do whatever you got. We'll sell our commercials at a minimum and pretend we never did this.
But they really use their whole toolbox here for everything. Not only just the one where they put up the cards and everything. Maybe an episode or 2 before that where they just really cut out all the dialogue anyways. And they're just like, hey, we can't hear each other. And all you hear is just the surrounding background, which is another thing that I want to point out with this show, is the sound design is utterly fantastic. If you listen to this on a 5.1, you are doing yourself a favor, man, because it It's one of the best sounding shows on TV right now.
And we've made the comparison to Lynch. I made it pretty heavily in the first 2 episodes, but I got to say that this show does successfully what I think David Lynch fails at. And David Lynch is really good at mixing the mood, but he's not really good at telling the story. David Lynch doesn't wrap up stories very well at all. He's all about the journey and not about the destination, and that's fine. But I don't necessarily, I used to think I really liked David Lynch. I've revisited some stuff in the past couple of months and realized I don't think I like him that much. This gives me all the things I like about Lynch, but they clearly had a destination in mind when they started the journey, something I feel like he doesn't. Famously, the cuts he turns in are like 4.5 hours, mainly because he just wants to delay the disappointing end as long as possible. Then, executives have to force him to cut it down to 2 hours and 15 minutes so that, firewalk with me. Go watch that movie and tell me you disagree with what I'm saying here.
1,000% agree.
And I think that they do Lynch better because they put in this just bizarre random stuff that actually matters a little bit, and it's not just a midget talking backwards and while jazz music's playing in the background. Case in point, I had no idea where it was going when I saw David in a white suit with a banjo. When he's in the astral plane and he brings Sydney there. And then he starts playing the Kermit the Frog song. And I'm like, I don't know who thought this up, but that man is a genius. Whoever came, or that woman, whoever came up with the idea of him playing the Kermit the Frog song on a bed in the astral plane with the banjo. Because when I first saw that, I had the feeling like somebody really had to put their foot down to have him holding a banjo and not a guitar. Then he started the song and it made sense. You got to have the banjo for that song.
But what's even better is he obviously, unless he's like dumbing it down, which I would doubt, but he doesn't the actor doesn't know how to play. Like it's just somebody that seems like they've just fairly well learned it, because it's not perfect. And that's what makes it even better, I think.
And then there's the part where his rational mind shows up. And, the actor is British, if I understand correctly. He was on Downton Abbey.
So good. And the part that I love about that whole scene where the rational mind shows up.
Let me guess. Let me see if I can guess. It's when David tries to do a British accent and it's bad.
Spot on. That is exactly it.
That's where I was going to. I love that part. And I don't even know how these English actors, these British actors do such good American accents. But what would be really harder is to do a bad British accent. Like, I don't even know how mine could wrap itself around doing your native tongue poorly. I can't even comprehend that.
That's just bizarre because, I can't. It's astounding to me that so many of these actors can do American accents, and our accents kind of go all over the place, But yet, when you hear them, it's just like if you didn't know any better, that dude's sure he's American. Why not? And then you're like, not American. It's like, dude, really good, man.
And as a guy who's recorded 1.5 audiobooks so far, once I get past 3 voices, I'm really desperate. I'm pinching my nose and throwing pennies in my mouth. I'm doing anything to sound different. The way these guys do it, I'm so envious.
Pennies in the mouth.
You just got to hit your fingers in your jaws and pull out real hard to do another accent. I'm really struggling to come up with more than 3 voices. I need to write books with fewer characters.
See, that's the thing. I think all of this writing book stuff was to get his his audio play going. But then he realized, oh crud, I can only do 3 voices.
And one of them is every woman is the same, by the way. If it's a female, there's one option I have to draw on.
He does put on a dress to play her, though.
I think the whole thing was a ruse for an excuse for him to throw pennies in his mouth.
Honey, you'll stop throwing pennies.
For an audiobook, it isn't weird.
Daddy, why you got my piggy bank again? Why are my pennies all wet?
I gotta perform an audiobook, son. Get out of here.
This is exactly what Orson Welles did for War of the Worlds. He threw pennies in his mouth.
That's a known story, known fact.
There's just so much good, in my opinion. There's so much good about the show, and the thing that I really like about this is it gave me the feeling that I used to get when I was a kid, where you just pick up the random comic book off the spinner rack, and you don't know what's going on when you first start reading. You catch up. You're like, oh, okay, I think I see what's going on here. This show does that from episode to episode where you're like, I have no idea what's happening right now, and I've been following this show very closely. and it's such a good feeling that, you know, once you figure out what's going on, and once you know, okay, I didn't skip an episode and stuff like that. To me, it's something that I missed, and I didn't even know that I missed it. You know, that feeling of like, I really have no clue what's happening, but you know what? Let's see where this takes us. And it always rewarded me every time, and that's what I love about the show. And I think that might be the thing that I like second best about the show, because the production design on the show is just incredible. But number 2 is that feeling of, where are we? Do I have the right show on?
Now, what is this? Now, something else I just have to make sure I point out before we get to, you know, blow past everything. Another point that I think is a high point, something I admired, not necessarily that it had entertainment value, but I thought it was such an atypical decision, and it told a story in a new way. Which is so hard to come by today, is a story that's not something I can say, well, it's already been done before. But we've got the bad guy from Division 3 who half his body has been burned, and we get his backstory, and he's in a same gender marriage with an adopted child. I mean, you get the idea that his job is kind of an evil job, but he's actually like a wonderful person when he's not at work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like everything that you should be telling us about your hero. You know, the hero should be the gay man who's adopted a child. You know, like, this is all this stuff about how heroic this person is, and then the villain should be the despicable bigot who hates all this. You know, his child's an African American too. You know, so the bad guy's supposed to be the bigot that hates minorities and gay folks and stuff. But here they're like, oh man, I'm supposed to hate this guy, but I kind of got to be on his side now too.
and it's all against, like, you know, he wants to save the human race because he sees this outside force, this almost alien force, if you will, and just realizes, hey, look, to save myself, to save, you know, this world and everything, this is what I have to do. And it's that kind of, you know,
couldn't be any further from the character of Reverend Stryker from the comics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they're totally going to just do things differently here, and have the courage to tell everything that they want to tell, and I appreciate that, man. It's just so rare you find something that really does feel fresh or challenging.
Now, while he doesn't have the power, it is that kind of Magneto thing of like, hey, I'm doing this for the betterment of everybody. He just happens to be on the opposite side, you know, the kill all the mutant side.
Right.
Yeah, he's the kill all the non-mutant side.
Yeah.
The actor who plays his partner, I love that actor. And there's no way that he doesn't have a much, much bigger role in season 2.
Yeah. And, you know, I really like the curly-haired guy that they called the Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't see any way he can be in season 2. So that was kind of sad to me when we lost him. He was very creepy.
They're actually killing people off on this show, unlike other TV shows where someone dies and 5 minutes later they come back already. Like, that makes me nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at one point, because I don't think when we saw him die in the first, quote unquote, die in the first one, that we saw him die per se. But I don't think that we thought, because when they came back and they showed like the reoccurrence there of that character getting blown up and everything, I was like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? Oh snap, he's alive.
And then also, I want to talk about the various aspects of the embodiment of the Shadow King through David's life. Like we have the little dog that's the Beagle, then we have the best friend that's Lenny, but then later other people say no, it wasn't Lenny, it was Benny. And then of course we do get Lenny showing up in the more current day, quote unquote current day version of things. But I do like and then we've got the guy that looks like he escaped from that movie Frank with Fassbender too.
Right. Right.
So
angriest boy in the world, meanest boy in the world.
Yeah, angriest boy in the world. So, like I said, I like the way they kind of found a way to incorporate the dissociative identity. They've given him sort of different identities, but they're not his identities. They're Farouk's identities. That was a nice way to kind of touch on the spirit of the character, but make it a little more interesting.
And they're all creepy as all get out, man. And it's done so well. It's just like, just to the biggest and best effect that they possibly can. And I can't believe they pulled it off as well as they have.
And I don't know how much information is true and how much they're just yanking our chains here, like the stuff that's come out from the production. But the whole story that Aubrey Plaza's character was written to be a man, but she insisted they not change any of the dialogue. So she talks and acts like an older man instead of like Aubrey Plaza. But then with the reveal that Lenny was actually Benny, and then all that stuff makes sense. And the fact that it's Amal Farouk who's talking through her form. I don't know how much they just said that to throw us off the track, because it kind of fits the story perfectly when you see it unwrapped. So I don't know if they did change the back end of the story or if that was just some BS they threw out there to humor us.
Yeah, either way.
I think that it's BS. It sure sounds like that. Knowing where the character went, that sounds like malarkey.
But it really had me going, because reading that, then I go back and, watch those first couple episodes, and I'm like, yeah, the kind of things she say do sound like something written for a man. But then in the story, we find out it really is a man. But that whole thing, sorry, I don't swing that way, bro. it was just kind of funny with that meta knowledge.
So can we get to the end for this? Can we?
Yeah.
Because I got to talk about it.
Okay.
Yes, let's talk about it.
So what do you guys think happened?
I think Hank Pym went nuts and kidnapped Legion.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
What do you think happened, Adam?
I'll be honest, the only thing I was just kind of like, that part of me was like deep down wishing every time Astral Plane came up, I was just like, wouldn't it be the most awesome thing in the world if Doctor Strange showed up for just like one scene, just like in passing or something? I was like, oh, come on. And it made it, you roll a tear thinking about how these people can't all get along together, and it's kind of sad that way.
Now, we did get a glimpse of the wheel on Xavier's wheelchair when they're having flashbacks to his adoption. So maybe this is in the Legion universe, the FX TV show Legion universe. Maybe this is how Cerebro collects mutants now. Maybe Charles sent out that little pod to go get Legion, his son.
Oh, that's what you think it is?
No, but I'm trying to think of something. I have no clue.
Because I think I know what it is, and if I'm right, things are going to be bananas in season 2. Because yes, Magneto is the X-Men's like best, greatest big bad, but by far their weirdest villain that they've ever fought is Mojo. And
a lot of
I thought Mojo the whole time, man.
A lot of people thought that the yellow-eyed devil looked a lot like Mojo, which look at a picture of Mojo, look at a picture of Amal Farouk. It's kind of like they put those two characters together and came up with the yellow-eyed devil.
Well, the little ball thing that grabs him, that is one of Mojo's devices to grab the X-Men to take them back to the Mojoverse.
And put them on a reality show. Man, I would love to turn into episode 1 of season 2 and see it start out with Longshot and Shatterstar.
Man, are you kidding me? And then on top of it, you have the X-Men babies. You have all of that insanity from the Mojoverse. Oh my God! And this show has the guts that they would do it. They would absolutely do it.
And I'm not sure, I might be off just a little bit here, but I'm close, at least in the concept. I would love them to try to explain how Shatterstar is his own grandfather in the Mojoverse.
Oh my God. Such possibility in this show. Because
and I feel like Mojo is something that the cinematic universe doesn't want any part of, so it would be open game for this. And I think that's a great idea.
Man, it's so ridiculous. Why would you ever put it on a show? But this show would totally do that.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, you wouldn't be surprised, I don't think.
And when you think about how ill-defined the mutant powers are, other than Legion, who's essentially a god, I can't really tell you exactly what any of the other mutants' powers are. I mean, there's an old man who also has a girl living inside of him. There's the guy who can sort of read memories, but is that, how do you use that in a battle? I have no idea what Jean Smart's mutant ability is, if she even has one. We have the sort of rogue ability that Sid has, but it's kind of different, but it kind of doesn't seem to express itself consistently. And so somebody like Longshot, who his mutant power is, he's like always lucky. Like the ball always bounces his direction. That would fit perfectly in this ill-defined world of mutants.
Oh man, and well, the opposite side of that is that Longshot is very lucky, but the people around him are not, and so that is yet another great thing to see happen on a television Man, how fun is all of this that we're talking about? X-Men babies. We could see X-Men babies here.
And imagine, today I finally got my sanity back and I'm waking up in the Mojoverse, which is more insane than my insane world was.
Oh my God, so good.
Now I'm back to normal. Oh, crap.
The only thing that I am a little nervous about is that it's not Mojo and it's Phantom X. Because if it's Phantom X, that is a pretty lame storyline. But
but if they have Phantom X kill Baby Apocalypse, that would just be bizarre enough that it might work.
Well, it's a. You know what? This show could do it. I don't even know why I'm besmirching that idea. This show could totally pull that off.
I'm down to see what they do. I'm curious about it. When you say Mojoverse, that's a really good thought, and I'd love to see what the Mojoverse looks like in this world, because we can be clear that they don't feel beholden to any established canon. I mean, their astral plane is not what we've been set up to expect as the astral plane, for example. So their Mojoverse may be totally different than what we're expecting and really, really work.
They're all Care Bears in the new one. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. There's no bad ideas in the war room.
Hey, the Care Bear stare is the greatest superpower of all time.
Yeah, I'm frightened always.
I don't know. I think Captain Planet's got a pretty good power set.
So with season 2, do we get it? Well, we're probably going to get both, I guess. We get it from David's perspective, trying to get back to whatever he thinks of as regular. And then we're also going to get Sid trying to locate and rescue David. And hopefully we get a lot of Oliver and Shadow King being involved, too, because we have 2 big bads potentially now for episode 2. Whoever sent the sphere to kidnap David. And we kind of glossed over the fact that Aubrey Plaza is now riding shotgun with Oliver.
That was the only shot in this entire thing that I felt wasn't done really well. It felt just like the process shot that it was, and it killed me because everything else looked so darn good throughout the entire series. Is like this one shot. It looked crummy to me, and I was a little disappointed.
Now the drone shows up after the credits. It's like the first time I've seen a TV show go for the old end credits scene. If they hadn't had the drone show up, and I remember when the credits rolled, I thought, well, that was kind of a disappointing finale. It sort of wrapped things up, but I'm not really satisfied. Then all of a sudden the drone shows up, I'm totally satisfied again. So do you think if we suppose you saw the credits and changed the channel and you didn't see the drone show up?
You mean like Adam did?
Does it make it much, much less satisfying?
I wasn't aware it was a thing, so I've not. I'll have to go back and look because I don't know what you're talking about.
You still sound pretty satisfied, but yeah, after all the credits rolled, this little drone shows up and kidnaps David, and when that happened, I said, okay, that's enough to flip the coin in the direction of the show. But without that, I was a little dissatisfied with the way it all wrapped up. It was just a little too convenient and too much like what typical television would do and not what I expected from this show. And then the drone shows up, which was something that I never would have expected.
Oh, so you didn't see that?
Adam didn't see that.
No, I didn't.
What I'm.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it.
Oh wow!
I'll watch it. I'll watch it right after this.
Oh, so then when I said to you, I think I said it to you off air that the ending to this show is crazy. What were you like? What are you talking about?
He thought you really liked a barefooted Aubrey Plaza.
Oh yeah, look, I like it as much as any other red-blooded American, but it is. I was just like, it was interesting. I don't know if I go so far as to say it was bonkers, but hey, to each his own. So yeah, I'll go back and watch that. Clearly, gee whiz. I was just like, okay, time's up here. Let's go do some podcasting. I'm like, oh shoot, there's more.
Now, one lull. I just want to throw out one more lull and see if you guys agreed with this or not. I didn't really like rehashing everything in episode 6 back in the psychiatric department. Did that work for you guys? Because it didn't work real well for me. I felt like it didn't need to be a whole episode.
You mean more or less like the fact that they were kind of back there and then it was almost, to me, I found it cool because it's almost like, was that a dream? Was everything in there? And I know Sean hates that kind of stuff, but it was just kind of like questioning, where they are right now. Was everything in my head? Am I just that schizophrenic nut job? No, I can't be that kind of thing. We wouldn't have wasted this much film.
Well, I mean, there was no mystery about it. We all knew that this was in the astral plane. That was obvious. And then what I mean is they're even having the exact same conversation from episode 1 about the guy's drool, but it's just different characters that are having the conversation. Instead of David and Lenny, this time it's David and the memory guy.
I think that what they were going for is to show that they're caught in a loop, and that's fine. I think that it did drag a little bit, and you are right about that. But
it would have worked. It would have worked better for me if I saw Shadow King in the astral plane, and down flies David with a cape, and he says, "Shadow King, I've come to bargain," and we get to see him do that over and over again.
Season two. They've already greenlit it, so we're fine. Well, you never know. But no, I don't know. I guess it worked for me because it felt like it's kind of what they were doing to set everything up, and I don't know. It didn't bug me.
And I guess it was an opportunity for Lenny, for Aubrey Plaza's character to go into full villain mode and not just like untrustworthy sidekick mode.
Very true.
I got to tell you, I think that however many shows they want to give Noah Hawley, I'm totally on board for. I love Fargo.
He seems to be doing
Fargo. I love this show.
Maybe he'll adapt the long-awaited Peter Porker Spider-Ham series.
Long-awaited by whom?
Well, I'll give you one guess who it's awaited by. And his name rhymes with Cruz Mesley.
That could be anybody. All right, now, before we get to our final ratings here and everything, we have to ask ourselves how FX's Legion relates to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Let me start off by going before I go to the prepared statement.
Please.
Every time that we have like a 2-part to a television show, the Stallone connection is incredibly difficult. But here we go. Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Let me tell you about a Saturday morning cartoon show in the 80s that has slipped the public consciousness, and with good reason. That cartoon was called Turbo Teen. And it might have had one of the dumbest premises to a network show that's ever been broadcast on television. It was about a teenager who turned into a red Chevy Camaro. But the fact that the teenage boy turns into a car isn't the most ridiculous thing about Turbo Teen. He would turn into a car whenever he got hot. Bullies would throw him into a sauna, or he'd get trapped in a hot tub. There wasn't a week that he didn't end up in some kind of sweltering bind. How did he turn back into a real-life boy? Well, he would have to get cold, of course, so you'd see his friends throw ice cream on him. I think once he drove into a meat locker. It was insane. But even that wasn't the most ridiculous thing about the show. You see, whenever Turbo Teen turned into a car, his friends would get inside of it. They would drive the kid who turned into a car. And even when I was a kid, that bothered me. It bewildered me. It didn't stop me from watching it, of course, because I was a stupid young man. But why the hell am I bringing up Turbo Teen? Well, the reason why is because the character designer of the show was none other than Jack Kirby. Now, I'm going to guess that anyone listening to the show knows who Jack Kirby is, unless you're being forced to listen to it by a loved one. And if that's the case, have them explain to you who Jack Kirby is. Anyway, Jack Kirby, if you're paying attention, is thanked in the end credits of Legion. Because apparently Noah Hawley treats Jack Kirby far better than Stan Lee ever did at Marvel. Hey, Stan, saying he was one of the greats is really nice and all, but how about making sure one of the guys that actually created the Marvel Universe has his family taken care of? Seems like a good idea. Now, if you'll excuse me while I get down off my soapbox, it's kind of like Stan's soapbox, except I made it myself.
That's freaking good.
I'm going to get to the low connection, I promise. You see, one of Jack's last jobs before his death was doing character design work for the Rambo cartoon. I barely remembered this being a cartoon because I was too busy watching the good shows to pay attention to it, as was everyone else since it only lasted for one season. But Jack Kirby did the character design for it. And as always, the IMDb user reviews come through in a pinch. And I'm going to let one review do the work for me. This user is named Miyagi Sweaty Wife Beater. And Miyagi Sweaty Wife Beater writes, Rambo was a bad cartoon. Seeing him leap off a skyscraper on a motorcycle was too much for me. They try to turn Rambo into a children's character who chases the bad guys and fights for truth and justice. Bad stuff. Not worth seeking out. Who thought it was a good idea to turn a flashback-haunted, sadistic sociopath soldier into a children's hero? Well, thank you, Miyagi Sweaty Wife Beater. And thank you, HMPers. Now, Adam and Bruce, let's review the first season of Legion so I can go back to writing my Turbo Teen fanfic.
And I want to go on the record as saying Turbo Teen was better than the live-action Automan.
Oh, man, that's a tough one, man.
But I got to imagine that the people that were behind that were the same people that were behind, hey, let's make RoboCop into a cartoon.
Yeah.
Which I actually watched a lot of.
And my personal favorite of the Kirby character-created cartoons was Thundar the Barbarian, where the bad guy looked like Darkseid.
Yeah.
He totally did.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get down to it here at Hero Movie Podcast. We have our own patented Robin rating system if you'd like to find out how that works. Why don't you head on down to Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the page. And while you're there, why don't you throw a little thumbs up on that bad boy? Keep up on all the good things that we got going on there. Bruce, where does Season 1 of Legion fall in the H&P Robin rating system for you, sir?
Well, it's a tough one because I feel very differently depending on how I watched it. And I don't like giving conditional reviews, but I kind of have to do this. So I'm going to rate the ideal consumption rather than the consumption as initially broadcast. So I'm going to say if I watched it weekly with commercial interruptions, I'm not going to like it as well as watching it, paid viewing. I bought the episodes on iTunes. I binge watched it with commercial-free streaming. I liked it a lot better there. So I'm going to say if you're in a situation where you can binge watch it commercial-free, not have time for it to sort of simmer down and then have to build the fire back up, I think it's strong Tim Drake for me in that territory. But if I had been forced to watch it weekly with commercial interruption and remember to watch it from week to week and remember what's going on, I would have given it a lower rating. But I'm going to go with Tim Drake in the ideal scenario.
Makes sense to me. Keenan, what you got?
For me, it's a Dick Grayson. The show is so wonderful to me. I enjoyed every second of it. And this is one of those shows where they kind of sneak in the superhero stuff, which I'm not usually a fan of, but man, this show is so good. It's a Dick Grayson.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there on the in between. I think I'm gonna go with Tim Drake, not right now, but it is about as high as you can get just before spilling over. But I think Bruce was spot on with what he was saying, is that this really works super, super well as something that you can binge and just go one after the another, watch 2 or 3 at a time, or even, heck, it's only 8 episodes, man. It's, if you got a Saturday, free or something, it's a good watch. It's a good time. And I think it really helps the context of everything going back to back to back because not only commercials, but an entire week between episodes, if you weren't paying attention, man, you would be able to come back and go like, I don't even know what I'm watching right now. Did I miss something? I think you'd be asking yourself that question a whole lot. So as far as like a binging thing, I definitely recommend that. It's coming back for season 2, man. So get on board now while the getting is good, says I. All right, so that'll do it for this week's episode. Next week, of course, as we talked at the top of the show here, we're going to be doing our Patreon selected movie. Right now, again, it's all tied up between Thomas Jane's The Punisher, Zorro the Gay Blade, Conan the Barbarian, and Hero for Hire coming in with 0 votes, Bruce.
Good. I think that's a good thing. I think we have intelligent Patreon supporters.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
But if you'd like to go and vote on that, patreon.com/HMP. even if you're in at the lowest level, you'll definitely be able to get in on that. And of course, with May coming up, like I said, it's going to be Listener Appreciation Month for you guys and everything. So lots of giveaways and things to be had throughout the month of May. So get on that ASAP. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, sir?
Well, at Heroes and Villains, I just put up an episode all about Marv from Sin City, so I think a lot of people may enjoy checking that one out. Chubby Wizard, we've always got crazy comic book and comic book TV stuff to talk about there. And, Dragon in the Needle, still out there floating around on Amazon, paperback, ebook, audiobook, lots of good ways to enjoy that. Go check that out.
I think you also need a puppet play in there as well, maybe. Just a thought.
I'm working on it, man. I just got to get more puppets. I only have so many socks to work with.
Finger puppets, baby. Finger puppets.
I'm tired of all this felt.
Daddy, did you buy stock in felt? I'm making a puppet show. Keenan, what you got?
You can find me on Twitter at HeroMovieSean.
And, of course, my other podcast will be coming back. We've had some changes and stuff. But the Film Find should be coming back soon. But the big thing is I've had people ask me, they're like, hey, what's up with Nerd Talk now? Give me one more week. Starting next week, entirely different show. It's going to have a different look. It's going to have a different feel. Going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming up on that. And you're definitely going to want to be a part of that. Facebook.com/Nerd Talk Now. That is it, everybody. Join us again next week when we have the Patreon selected Viewer's Choice, Listener's Choice. They don't view this unless they just watch the thing go by on their screen the whole time, which if you do that, email us, heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. I want to talk to you. You're an odd bird. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Ethan.